Hi guys, Jay Nelson here once again, and I just want to give a quick thank you as always because last video I wanted to try doing a bit of a longer mini podcast style video, and it turns out that it not only did much better than my usual videos, it's my second most viewed video out of the recent videos I've made, which is a good sign that people might like this kind of more in detailed discussion rather than just trying to rush through some news or rush through some events that I've gone through. So this time I'd like to try and do that again. However, this time maybe just try to stick to one topic, because last time I did about my daughter's elementary school and then I also talked about work, but maybe splitting up two different topics kind of gives people an incentive to skip or an incentive to drop out. And I do want to kind of tell not so much stories, but give a full account of what I'm thinking or feeling. So this time I'm going to focus on just one story, event, thing that's gone on in my life. Now, the title of this video is going to be something along the lines of I turned down my dream job in Japan. And it is true that I turned down a dream job that could be a dream for some people just a couple of days ago. Because the thing is with YouTube, it's kind of like a lot of stuff is clickbaity and a lot of stuff maybe a bit exaggerated. And to be honest, with the way the YouTube algorithm and people getting people to watch things works, you do have to be a bit saucy in what you put out there. So I turned down an incredible opportunity this Monday. Last video I mentioned about how I'd been offered a job, and I was kind of, in Japanese we would say nayanderu. We just kind of mulling it over, thinking, what should I do? Is it the best thing for me? And I came to the conclusion on Monday that I do not want to do that job. And also, I don't really want to do any job, as weird as that might sound. So, as you probably know, for those who have watched many of my videos, or at least the recent videos, I have been the principal of an international school for the past 6 years. And it's been a very intense 6 years. It started off very, very rocky. My boss didn't give me any training. And also, the pandemic literally started my first day there. Not the pandemic started, but we had something called Kitai. What was it called? Kinkyu Jitai Sengen. There was a phrase for it. Kind of like you had to. It was like lockdown, but they cannot legally enforce any lockdowns in Japan. So it was kind of like an emergency situation. So that happened, I think, on the first or the second day that I started in the principal's job, which was very, very stressful, but also a bit of a blessing in disguise because it did give me an opportunity to learn about things. Now, I ended up having to go to work at like 5:30 every day in the morning to go through all the paperwork, learn what everything is, learn who everyone is, not just the people in the school, but people around the school, outside the school. I really tired myself out physically and mentally pretty quick. And I don't think I ever truly recovered in the 6 years. I did pick up speed in my second, third, fourth year where we ended up like doubling our student count. But then things got really, really rough where the company started to have different opinions on what they wanted for the company. As is the case with the childcare industry, there's a lot of instabilities, a lot of things that are going on right now in Japan. The economy is not great. The number of children is decreasing year on year. So, especially after the pandemic as well, a lot of people are moving back into Tokyo. So, and an expensive international school outside of Tokyo wasn't necessarily going to be able to be massively successful, especially when the company also owns public schools where kids just need to get into nursery. So public schools have no problem getting kids and the government pays for it all. So it's kind of like the company kind of realized even if the international school charges a lot, there's a lot less work into getting students for the public school, and there's less risk because the government pays the money. If the student number goes down in my school, there's a lot of staff they still need to pay. If the number of kids go down in public school, they can move the teachers to other public schools and stuff like that. It kind of is much easier to deal with, and the government will still pay for it. So they finally kind of gave up on the school, and not gave up, but they did keep it going longer, a couple of years longer, and then finally they've decided to close it. And it's been a very tough 6 years, especially because I've put everything. My life has basically been in this school because I was going there every morning. Even when I stopped going at 5:30, I was still going in 7:30 every day. So I sacrificed all of that time with my family. I had to work a lot of Saturdays to do events or catch up on paperwork because I didn't have a vice principal. So I was doing all of the management myself, as well as the marketing, the advertising, all of that stuff I had to do on my own. So when I got this job offer for another international school, the role was not the principal's position, but basically someone in the back end who does all the paperwork that I was doing now, but without the management stuff, which is actually quite appealing because, to be honest with you, managing 20 people who are not necessarily committed to the company, a lot of them were very committed, is quite tough. Because when you're in a school situation, you're just rolling over the years. And there was some teachers who were really passionate about the school and the kids. Some teachers were just very selfish about what they wanted. And it was quite difficult to manage at times because when you've got so many people, different cultures, different nationalities, different genders, different ages, different experiences, all doing different things in the school, it's quite hard to manage every single person. Sometimes people didn't want to be managed and would always fight back. Some people were happy to be managed and really wanted advice. It was challenging at times. So really, really good moments. However, the problem is when you're managing a school is that if you are the only person running it, if there's no vice principal, if you have a day off, like today I have a day off, it's never a day off. Because I've already had like 4 or 5 messages asking me to do something, fill something out, sort something out, and it's only like 12 o'clock. And I was in the gym and I got like 3 messages while I was in the gym, and it's like, for God's sake, just like, I just want to have a day where I don't think about the school anymore. Like, I just don't want to think about work. And unfortunately, when you work in a school where it's all human activity, like when you work in maybe an office or maybe something like engineering, it's you and the computer for the most part. But when you're working in a school, the kids are there, the parents are there, the teachers are there. So there's so many humans who need dealing with. And you never, I always have to check my phone, my work messages just before I go to sleep to see if anyone's sick and cannot go to work the next day. I have to wake up early in the morning just to check if anyone's sick, just in case I need to arrange the shift so that people can go in the morning. So even like today when I'm on a day off, I have to wake up at like 5:30 just to check if anyone's messaged me that they're sick, just so that I can arrange that kind of stuff. And it is quite stressful always having that on your mind. And it does affect family stuff as well, because I'm always checking my phone. And even when I'm out with family, there'll be times where I get a call and I have to deal with it. I'm like, I'm trying to eat my fucking dinner, guys. I'm trying to eat my dinner with my family. And now I have to tell them, sorry, just give me a minute while I deal with this. And it's just a school at the end of the day. Of course, schools are very important, but it's not like I'm getting paid, a ton of money. It's, I can understand why a lot of people in education get quite stressed. So to be honest, when I got, kind of the offer to do kind of office management and work with the parents and doing all the paperwork, I was like, it's going to be quite similar to what I do now. Because if a parent has a question, it's me who's got to answer it. And it's going to be the same where it's going to be like I have a day off, and it's always on your days off when you get the emergencies. Like today, I was just eating my lunch and I got a message to say the air conditioners on the second floor have all cut out. Where's the key for the breaker? I was like, the breaker's unlocked. Like, there's no key for the breaker, and I've never seen one in the 6 years that I'm there. And they're like, no, it's locked. Somehow it's locked. And it's like, well, what? I'm not gonna go. Do I have to go to school to unlock the breaker on my day off, like a few hours in while I'm eating my lunch? I don't really want to deal with that anymore. And teaching kids is fun. Teaching kids is awesome, but I feel like I don't have a ton of freedom over my life. And one of the reasons why I say this is a dream job for many people is because to be offered, like, I didn't even apply to this company. They reached out to me on LinkedIn and then offered me to interview, and then offered me the job like straight away. When they offered me the salary, I said it's not enough. So they immediately increased it by another 30,000 yen. So it got to the point where they were offering me like almost 5.5 million a year, which is less than what I make now. However, for a lot of people, I mean, if you work in like an ALT or an Eikaiwa position, I mean, that's like double what you'll be making. And once you get used to the job, it's not the most difficult job in the world, but you do always have to be on. So that's something that I was very aware of, and I was quite, I didn't want to deal with having to always be switched on. And to be honest with you, I've kind of built things like my italki profile where I can make over 300,000 yen a month just by working 3 or 4 hours a day. And to be honest, do I work 3 or 4 hours a day in this room and make over 300,000 yen a month? Or do I travel 1 hour on the train, do 9 hours at work, maybe some overtime, and probably work in my lunch break, then take another hour back just to make about 25% more? Is it really worth it? Because one of the things that I've been very conscious of over this past decade, especially since COVID started, was I needed to build in case of emergency. So I've been very diligent with saving money, putting money into the NISA, and luckily I've got enough money that I could, to put it lightly, I could buy a few Teslas. I don't know if that gives away too much how much I've got, but what that does give me in terms of my life is that I don't have to worry too much about what I do, for a while at least, because I still have my italki work, and I'm still working in my school for another 4 months, and my wife is working full-time as well, and we have our investments. So I'm not under any immediate pressure to just jump, because what would have happened is my school would have finished on March 31st, this school now, and I would have had to work till very late at night to get all the time cards finished, all the invoices in case they had to pay anything extra, and then just get everything cleaned up, everything signed off. So I probably would have had to work 8 p.m., 9 p.m., a few hours overtime, and then close the school up and deliver the keys. And then April 1st, I would have had to walk into another job. And the way that it works in Japan is when you're working in kindergartens or stuff like that, like international preschools that are more like childcare, there's no spring vacation. So March 31st would have been a Tuesday. And then 12 hours less later, less than 12 hours later, I would have walked right into a new management job in a new school. And I felt that would have been very mentally overwhelming, especially when I wasn't 100% on doing it. So it's always very, very important to try and put away as much money as you can. Not necessarily to buy an expensive car or buy bags or buy clothes or vacations. Is to buy freedom for yourself. And luckily now what I can do from April is I can think about setting up my own business. I can think about building a social media profile. I can make connections and network and build something that I am more in control of. And if 6 months or a year down the line it doesn't work, then because I'm still working the italki job in the evening, I'm still studying. This Sunday I have a Chinese test. I'm still skill building. Then I can think about getting back into work again. And I don't necessarily have to stress too much about what the future looks like, because if you start putting away a lot of money very early, you can build your future when you're young, rather than waiting until your mid 40s or your 50s to be like, oh crap, I should really start putting some money away. Now I could be like 34 years old and I'll be like, this money that I've put in my NISA already, if I just left this until I'm 65, I'll be a millionaire almost if it compounds at 10% with the S&P 500. So I can be like, yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire just in the passage of time. So that's something that I think a lot of people... I'm very lucky to be in the position that I'm in, don't get me wrong. I'm very aware that I am of a specific nationality. Being a white British man has given me a lot of advantages in the English teaching world. But also, I believe that I have a lot of skill and a lot of ability that I can use for work to get over the privilege as well. So I think that's something that I've had to be very aware of. But it did feel a bit weird to be like, this is an opportunity so many people would jump at. Because not only was it a job that was going to be from April, they laid out what they wanted me to do in the future. And there was a lot of really cool stuff that they wanted me to do with. I don't really know if I can share it because it's another company's plan. Actually, I probably couldn't share it at all, but they offered me a lot of really cool stuff. But I am not sure if I wanted to commit another 5 or 6 years for a lot of busy projects. Now, the people who I interviewed with, they're all Japanese, all seemed like really nice people, really great people, very caring when I talked to them, when they emailed me, when they sent me the offer. They were always very nice, very courteous, very supportive, not too pushy. When I asked them questions, they were always very accommodating. So I'm very happy as well that not only was I offered a very good job, I was offered a very good job by a very nice set of people. So yeah, a lot of people would have leapt at the opportunity. But I think what I've been missing over these past 5 or 6 years is an opportunity to develop what I want to develop rather than developing for other people. Because I put so much of my heart and time and my own personal money and my health into this school, only for them to just close it. And that's probably very, naive on my part. Not just naive, because I knew the possibility was always there. But it does hurt when it happens. But also, when you're working in business, you also have to be realistic and be like, yes, it can happen. So I don't really want to go back to another opportunity where if I put my heart and time into somebody else's business and then it gets closed again, or something gets shuffled around, or I get moved out of it. Because that's something I really don't like about teaching sometimes as well, is that you put a lot of effort into your school. And this happened a lot when I was in Peppy Kids Club, is that I would put a lot of effort into my schools, make good connections with the parents, and then one day they'll be like, oh yeah, from next month we're going to change your school and you'll be going somewhere else. And you've got to try and force yourself to take any kind of emotion and passion out of the job that you're doing at the time, because you could have goals for the students, you have goals for the school, but the company will just be like, actually, no, we're going to move you somewhere else. And the next person that comes into your school might not give a shit at all and just completely destroy all the work you've done. So you might as well not even put too much into it in the first place. And it sucks that that mindset ends up creeping up because you want to do your best and you want to put your heart into stuff. But companies can take that away. And business is business, money is money, influence is influence, fame is fame, stuff like that. That's all what is normal in business, I know. But as humans operating within the business, it's sometimes very difficult to take everything out of what we are to make money for somebody who doesn't know who you are, but then one day they can just turn around and be like, F off. It's just funny. And I read a book, you might be able to see it down there, it's yellow. It's a book by a guy called Simon Squibb called What's Your Dream? And he talks about how you've got to be more in control of your time, your skill, your influence, your money, and not just let other people control you. Because we see it all the time with layoffs in these big tech companies. A lot of people probably had their dreams come true by getting a job at Meta or Google or Amazon. Just for one day, the company turned around and say, you know what, we're making a little bit less money than we'd hoped. We're still making a lot of money, just not as much as we hoped. So leave now, immediately. It's just one of those things, unfortunately. So I think what's right for me is that I want to be in control of what I'm doing. And if I'm going to work from April, well, I am going to work from April, of course, on my own stuff. I want to put my effort into what I know is good, what I want to be, what I want to do, the influence I want to share, the people that I want to interact with. I want to try and be in control of all that stuff. And if it works out, wonderful. Hopefully I can build something that one day I bring people into, and hopefully the demons don't turn me into the companies of, around me that have effed with me as well. I hope that I can maintain who I am as a CEO in the future. Of course, who knows, if that was the case, I'm sure there would be millions of good CEOs, but there must be something. And that's kind of scary as well, where maybe you don't want to be as successful as you hope you can be, because that success might F with you. And it does, I do feel very motivated and very driven. And I just want to end by talking about a YouTuber that lives in Japan, and I'm sorry I'm going to name him, and he might get upset if he sees this. He's called the Andy-san, or Andy Japandi, or something like that. And I've known him basically the whole time that I've been in Japan. And we've had an off and off, we've not really been friends per se, but there's been times where I've maybe said stuff that he doesn't like, so he's deleted me for a few months or years or so, because I tend to be very straight, and I don't like it when people make too many excuses online, especially if it's to gain sympathy. So there's been times over the 10 plus years that I've known him that I've kind of maybe called him out or tried to comment on something and he's not taking it nicely. And I saw a video that he released a month ago. I watched it a couple of days ago, and it's talking about his next steps. And he was talking about how he's still on like a minimum salary job, which he hates. He's lost all passion for work. He's very motivated. He's thinking about maybe going back to America, but would have to sleep in his mum's house or on his mum's couch. But then also he's possibly opening an English school which teaches about film, which would unfortunately never work. Because he also states in the video that he hates teaching. So why would your passion be to open a school that teaches if you don't like teaching and you've put that on the internet? And I kind of watched the video and it kind of made me feel sorry for him at first. But then also I was looking at it and thinking like, you are going to be doing this for the next 25 years until you retire. Because I've known you now for over a decade, and I can't believe you haven't and he's a YouTuber who's been doing YouTube for longer than anyone I've ever heard of, like 16 or 17 years or so, and he still only has like 1,000 or 2,000 subs, and that shouldn't be it shouldn't be a huge factor, but this channel has been dead for over half a decade, and I've got more subs than all his channels combined, and I've never made a professional video in my life. This is just what I do, and every time he makes a video, it's exactly the same. He's got no money, he doesn't like his job, he doesn't know what to do, he feels like not confident, but he's gonna be making all the right changes. And I feel like maybe nowadays there's too many people who are too forgiving of themselves for not doing enough. And the reason why I have so much passion to, for example, save so much money away or be getting new skills is because I grew up with nothing. I grew up on the council estate with a single mother, but my mum would work non-stop to make sure me and my brother had everything. Even though she didn't even finish secondary school, I think she left school at 14. She gave birth to me when she was 21 or 22. No matter that the odds were against her, she put everything into making sure that she didn't fail. And she raised me and my brother. Now, me and my brother both own houses. We both have families. We both own cars. We've both got good careers. And that's all thanks to my mum never giving up and never being sorry for herself or telling herself everything's crap, but one day it'll be better. No, she got every little job that she could. She would volunteer at the school, and then the school offered her a job. She was always doing something to make the situation better. And now, seeing Andy's video, I was like, I really feel sorry, but this is pathetic, because how many videos is he going to make where he's just talking about what he's going to do? And when is he finally going to do something? And that's also what I'm going to be doing from April, because I kept thinking I want to stop being the principal of this school because I want to build something on my own. And finally the time has come. So I was also kind of the same, but also at the same time I was making good money and have a good position. So when you watch people on the internet, I think it's very important to be supportive of people, but not, how can I say, not cushion people when they're not doing enough and when they're kind of just sugarcoating their weaknesses just to kind of protect themselves. I think mental health is a big issue in the world now. I completely understand that. I have days where I feel awful and I feel like the world is crumbling around me. But does that mean that we should just allow the world to crumble? And now it's not as easy as just saying you've got to fight it. I know it's not as easy as doing that, but when we look back on ourselves, on our younger selves in the future, are we going to look back and say, I kicked ass just like my mum did? Or are we going to look back and say, life was very hard and that's how I ended up here. It's because life was just too difficult. I think that's something important to think about. But yeah, guys, this was another mini podcast, a kind of long video. Thank you all for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next time.